Hey everyone, it's Brett Hornby here, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's definitely going to be one of the busier draft recap videos that I'm making since I've been on YouTube, and being a Calgary Flames fan. However, it's been a while since the Calgary Flames actually have more draft picks at their disposal coming into the 2024 NHL Draft, and I'll recap all the players that the Flames did draft. But before I get into that, if you want to follow along this Calgary sportsman's journey, just make sure you hit like and subscribe, and I have my other social media links down in the description below. But the Calgary Flames, they actually had 9 draft picks coming into the draft. However, when I go through the recap, they actually made a draft day trade to move down and pick up another pick in the later rounds. So the Flames actually added 10 players to their prospect pool from this draft, which was held in Las Vegas in the new Sphere Complex. And you almost got to wonder if this is going to be the new permanent location for the NHL Draft, or still going to have it in arenas all over the NHL. But it's definitely different to see the usual draft happening in a different environment. So this draft for the 2024 class will always going to be remembered as the Macklin Celebrini draft, as he was drafted first overall by the San Jose Sharks, and he's a center and a Canadian that played at Boston University Hockey East, but here he has ties in the NoCal area, and his father, I believe, I keep hearing, works for the Golden State Warriors. So despite the fact that he's Canadian, he is from the lived around in the NoCal area. So the other thing I like to be different with my draft recap videos is picks that we did trade away, and then I also like to note some local picks that the Calgary Flames had noted, and also there were some hitmen that got drafted. But the other intriguing name for the Calgary Flames is, would they draft this guy, his son, in Tej, and well, wasn't meant to be because he was off the draft board. However, I'm going to say, if this is the consolation prize that the Calgary Flames had to sell for not drafting Jerome's son, Tej, I'm going to say we did very well, as the Flames had their first round pick, their own pick, 9th overall, as they drafted defenseman in Zane Parekh, who was a Canadian that he played at the Saginaw Spirit of the Ontario Hockey League and won the Memorial Cup. And some touted Zane Parekh as being the top offensive defenseman in this draft class. So I'm going to say, for not drafting Jerome's son Tej, I'm going to say we did very well. I'll run through the players and where they're drafted, and then we'll look at more of their bio in the next part of the video. And then Calgary, once again, this is still the Friday night, day 1 of the draft. The Calgary Flames actually had another first round pick, 28th overall. This pick was acquired from the Vancouver Canucks in the Elias Lindholm trade. So I'm going to say, considering we did really well in this trade with the assets we picked up, and hearing that Elias Lindholm wasn't going to resign with the Vancouver Canucks, but with that first pick that we got from the Vancouver Canucks, we drafted 20th overall. This time we went to Russia, as we drafted right winger in Matyev Grandin, and he played at the Muskokan Lumberjacks of the United States Hockey League. So Zane Parekh and Matyev Grandin were drafted in day 1 of the draft. So day 2, this happened on Saturday, as Calgary had 7 picks coming in, but they did pick up another pick with a trade. So now going into round 2, as rounds 2 through 7 happen on the second day, you don't have as much spectacle of them going up to the podium and putting on the jersey and shaking the hand with the brass. But in the second round, this is Calgary's own pick, 41st overall. They drafted left winger in Andrew Basha. He's a Canadian from here, played at the Medicine Hat Tigers of the Western Hockey League. So we definitely didn't look far to get the next player drafted. And looking at the Flames page, that apparently had a lot of family and friends that came in to cheer him on. So hopefully it was a thrill for their family. Then we got Andrew Basha. And then Calgary had another pick in the second round. This is the pick that we got from the Dallas Stars when we traded away Chris Tanev. And I think in the previous year I misspoke that it wasn't Joel Hanley that we picked up in the trade. We picked him off of waivers. And I actually heard a story that Chris Tanev, when he got traded to Dallas, he actually lent his home that he still had in Calgary to Joel Hanley, but it was Artem Grushkanev that we got in the trade. But getting back to this video, in 62nd overall, Calgary drafted a right winger in Jacob Battaglia, as he played for the Kingston Frontenacs. Actually, it was the same team that Sam Bennett played for, and we drafted him in 2014 and recently won the Stanley Cup with the Florida Panthers. He's a Canadian. And actually, he is not related to, when I saw Battaglia, you might think I'm starting to date myself, but if you remember in the late 1990s, when the Carolina Hurricanes, the early days that they moved from Hartford, there was a player in Bates Battaglia, but he's not related to that Battaglia, and actually the fact that Bates Battaglia actually is an American. So there's no relation to that. So now if we go to the third round, this is the more picks the Calgary Flames have. This is their own pick, 74th overall, and interestingly, this player must have really fell down in the draft, because some said that they scouted him higher. And actually, if you watch Top Shelf Hockey on his channel, he did a lot of mock drafts. Like, he almost did a lot that was almost too much, in my opinion. But you know, your opinions in that changed leading the draft, and was able to fill time. He actually had this player drafted in one of his videos with the 28th pick, but he slipped to 74th overall. Calgary drafted defenseman in Henry Muse. He's a Canadian. He played his hockey with the Ottawa 67s in the Ontario Hockey League. So we got Henry Muse. So some thought that he could have been a late first round pick or a second round pick, so potentially maybe a steal. I mean, Top Shelf Hockey, I remember seeing his name in a few of his mock video drafts that he did, that he had him being picked, and he said at the time it might have been a higher risk pick to get him at 28, but maybe even better we got him at 74th. And then staying in the third round, because the Calgary Flames had another pick in the third round. This was 84th overall, and this was the pick that we acquired, one of the picks that we acquired in the Noah Hanifin trade. The first round pick won't come until 2026, but 84th overall, Calgary went to Russia with this one, as they drafted a goaltender in Kirill Zaruin, if I said the name right. And it says he played at HC AKM in the MHL, which I think is the Moscow Hockey League. So that is the third round pick that the Calgary Flames had. So now if we go to the fourth round, this is 106th overall. The Calgary Flames, this is their own pick. They drafted in the center in Trevor Hoskin. He played for the Coburg Cougars of the Ontario Junior Hockey League. So once again, we got another center. And then afterwards, coming into this draft, the Calgary Flames had the 106th and the 107th pick. The 107th pick we acquired from the Vancouver Canucks as part of the Elias Lindholm trade. But what the Calgary Flames did is they ultimately traded that 107th overall pick. We sent that to the Philadelphia Flyers. And then in exchange, the Calgary Flames acquired the 150th overall pick and the 177th overall pick, all in this draft. So Calgary was able to move. They pretty much traded away their second fourth round pick in the draft that we got from Elias Lindholm and the Vancouver Canucks, and we traded that to the Philadelphia Flyers. And actually, these two picks that the Calgary Flames acquired from the Philadelphia Flyers wasn't their own pick, because the 150th overall pick was originally from the Los Angeles Kings, and the 177th overall pick originally was from the St. Louis Blues. And looking back, I think one of those picks that the Philadelphia Flyers got was when they traded for Brandon Lemieux, or they traded away Brandon Lemieux, and I believe Jimmy Vesey. So the next pick the Calgary Flames had in this draft after that trade was in the 5th round, 150th overall, that they originally got from the Philadelphia Flyers via the Los Angeles Kings. They selected a center in Luka Misa. He played for the Mississauga Steelheads of the Ontario Hockey League. So they got a pick in the 5th round out of it. And then the 6th round, Calgary had 2 picks, their own and the other pick that they got from Philadelphia. So in round 6, the Calgary Flames, 170 overall, this is their own pick. I'll have all this in the description anyway. They drafted center Hunter Liang, an American who played for the Prince George Cougars. And then the last pick that the Calgary Flames had, this was 6th round, 177th overall, which that was the pick they got from the Philadelphia Flyers in that draft day trade. They drafted defenseman and Eric Jameson played for the defenseman Canadian. I believe he's also a local from Calgary. Look closer at their bio. He did play for the Everett Silvertips, same team that Dustin Wolf played in the Western Hockey League. So to recap, the ultimately 10 players the Calgary Flames drafted. They drafted defenseman Zane Parekh, 9th overall. And then they drafted Russian Matya Gradin, 28th overall. And then 41st overall, they drafted left winger Andrew Basha. 2nd overall, still in the 2nd round, they drafted right winger in Jacob Battaglia. And then in the 3rd round, 74th overall, drafted defenseman in Henry Muse. And then 84th overall, 3rd round, drafted goaltender in Kirill Zarbudin. 4th round, 106th overall, they drafted center in Trevor Hoskin. 5th round, 150th overall, they drafted center in Luka Misa. And then the 6th round, 170th overall, they drafted center in Hunter Liang. And then 6th round, 177th overall, they drafted defenseman Eric Jameson. So if we quickly look at their bios, Zane Parekh, who's played for the Saginaw Spirit, was born February 15, 2006, from Nobleton, Ontario. His past season for the Saginaw Spirit, he played 66 games. He had 33 goals and 60 assists for 96 points. He actually was one of the highest scoring defensemen in the Ontario Hockey League. Actually, he had a few more points than fellow defenseman in Hunter Brstevich, who we got from the Elias Lindholm trade. So I'm going to say we're looking at rebuilding our defense with some offensive talent. And then Matya Gradin, he actually is from, as I mentioned, Russia, from Kurgan, Russia. He was born March 1st in 2006. This past season, he did play for the Muskokan Lumberjacks in 60 games. He had 38 goals, 48 assists for 83 points. So now going into the later rounds, Andrew Basha, which he played for the Mazinet Tigers. And actually, he is from here in Calgary. Born November 8th, 2005. And I mentioned this past season for the Medicine Hat Tigers, he had 30 goals, 55 assists for 85 points in 63 games. And then when it comes to Jacob Battaglia, played for the Kingston Frontenac. He is from Mississauga, Ontario. Born March 17th, 2006. He could play both sides of the wings. This past season for the Kingston Frontenac, 6-7 games, he had 31 goals, 34 assists for 65 points. Now when it comes to third round and defenseman and Henry Muse, or also like to call him Hank Muse, elite prospects. He is from Ottawa, so he played for the 6-7s. He was born March 9th, 2006, and as a defenseman, he did play, actually he is also a fairly offensive defenseman. In 65 games, he scored 15 goals, 46 assists for 61 points, and then World Junior Under 18 in 7 games for Canada. In 7 games, he had 2 goals, 5 assists for 7 points. So more offensive defensemen that we acquired in this draft already with Hunter Brstevich, Nathan Morin in the system. I think we're starting to see a theme. So now with the goalie that we drafted in Kirill Zabruin, he was born September 20th, 2005. He is from Penza, Russia. There was a couple games. I know that for the junior Tula region in 16 games, he had a .432 goals against average and a .902 save percent. But then when he went to the AKM Tula of the NHL, I think that's a level up. In 29 games, he had a goals against average of 1.99 and a save percentage of .944. So maybe he blossomed later in the season. So now going to round 4 for Trevor Hoskin, who played at, they also have him at Niagara University. He is from Belleville, Ontario. Born May 18th, 2004, so he's an older draft pick. And the Cobourg Tigers, he's committed to Niagara University in the NCAA. In 52 games, he actually had 100 points exactly, scoring 42 goals, 50 assists for 100 points. And I think that's the Ontario Junior Hockey League. Step below. So now when it comes to Luka Misa, when he played for the Mississauga Steelheads, he is from Oakville, Ontario, born November 25th, 2005. He actually, this past season, in 66 games, he had 26 goals, 55 assists for 81 points. So we're looking to add some more offense and skill. And then when it comes to Hunter Lehan, this is the player we drafted 107th overall, played for the Prince George Cougars. He was born May 16th, 2006. He's from Kelowna, British Columbia. And this past season for the Prince George Cougars, in 66 games, he had 11 goals, 14 assists for 25 points. And then the last pick in defenseman and Eric Jameson. If the site loads up, he had a place with the Everett Silvertips. Canadian. He actually is from here. And he was born July 15th, 2005 here in Calgary, Alberta. And he had 66 games in the Everett Silvertips, wearing an assistant captain. He had 10 goals, 22 assists for 32 points. And the other interesting thing with all these players is that I think Andrew Basha and Henry Muse, I think they knew each other, and also known as Zane Parak. If you watch the videos on Calgary Flames, it's like a lot of these players actually know each other personally and have some prior chemistry, so that's not a bad thing. So that is looking at all the players that we drafted and a couple of picks that we acquired. But now, if we look at some of the picks we traded away, because there's a few trades that either happened or get completed. Well, the trade away pick, the fourth round pick, 107th overall that we traded to the Philadelphia Flyers. Philadelphia used that to draft Finnish center in Hickey Herlowen, who played for Keko Espo of the U20 of the Under 20 SM Sara. So that was the pick we got from the Elias Lindholm trade, which stayed in the 4th round because Vancouver did not get to the Conference Championship, but we ultimately drafted that, or traded that to the Philadelphia Flyers. And now round 5, Calgary had a pick that they acquired from the San Jose Sharks, and that was in the Nikita Okut trade. I can never say that person's name right, but that was the pick that we acquired from Vancouver in the Nikita Zadorov trade that we traded to San Jose at the trade deadline for Nikita Okut. And then the San Jose Sharks ultimately drafted a Canadian defenseman in Colton Roberts, who played for the Vancouver Giants in the Western Hockey League. And then there was another 5th round pick that the Calgary Flames traded away. This was we traded to Chicago for Ryan Carpenter, and that was at the trade deadline in 2022, which I'm going to say, if this player plays a game in the NHL, we lost this trade. But 138th overall, the Chicago Blackhawks wound up drafting the Swedish left winger in Joel Svensson from the Vasco Lakers HC Junior 20 National. And then one more pick that we traded away, which completes this trade. This was another player that we acquired at the deadline in 2022 that didn't pan out and didn't stay. Well, we didn't have a 7th round pick because we traded that to the Seattle Kraken, which was 202nd overall. This was the last pick that we traded away in the Kelly Youngkirk trade. Seattle wound up drafting a Czechia defenseman and Jacob Figger, who played for the Mississauga Steelheads. So those were the picks that we traded away, either from picks that we acquired from trades or our own picks that we traded away at deadline. So we still had 10 picks overall that we acquired from previous trades and selling off and embracing the rebuild. So now Calgary picks to note. There's 3 picks here. One I have to mention, TJ Ginla. Well, TJ Ginla was off the board. As I mentioned, that we had to sell for Zane Parekh because TJ Ginla got drafted 6th overall in the 1st round by the Utah Hockey Club. So he's the first pick in Utah's history, and he played for the Kelowna Rockets and son of Calgary Flames legend and staff member in Jerome Ginla. So we'll see how TJ Ginla does with Utah. And a couple interesting things is there's Josh Doan, who is Shane Doan's son. Jerome Ginla and Shane Doan played each other in Kamloops and friends off the ice. So I guess Ginla and Doan will get to play for each other at the NHL level eventually. And I guess the only one thing you could say about maybe it was best that TJ did not get drafted for the Calgary Flames is the fact he has the last name and could have been extra pressure on him. Well, time will tell, or who knows, maybe this could be a player that the Flames will eventually draft. But in a couple of years, maybe Joe will be available and good enough to get drafted in the NHL. So maybe in a couple of years, Jerome Ginla will have another son to be proud of going to the NHL. And then 2 hitmen got drafted, and one player that we could have drafted but was also off the board was 7th overall. The next pick after Utah's pick went to the Ottawa Senators, and they drafted defenseman in Carter Yakimchuk, who played here in Calgary with the Calgary Hitmen. And I think this is the highest a Hitman player has gotten drafted, I think, since Pavel Brendel in the 1999 draft. Remember, Pavel Brendel was great at filling the net, scoring goals, and that was it. He was very, very one-dimensional and didn't transfer well in the National Hockey League. But then there was another Calgary Hitman that got drafted. This was 3rd round, 82nd overall. And I'm going to mention TJ Ginla, Carter Yakimchuk, and right winger in Carson Wentz, the San Jose Sharks. They're all Canadian born, so that is a good day for the Calgary Hitmen. So TJ Ginla made some history by being the first player drafted by the Utah Hockey Club. They're going to be called the Utah Hockey Club for this season before figuring out their complete brand and name. I think the Yeti is starting to be the consensus pick that they should go with, and I think that would be an awesome name, but that's up to the fans down there. Well, yeah, there's quite a bit to recap from the Calgary Flames' point of view, as we had ultimately 10 draft picks, so welcome all to the Sea Red, and hopefully many of these players pan out and get the rebuild going, but it's definitely a different direction that the team has gone on, because I've done these draft recap videos where it's like we traded more picks away to try to buy at the deadline and either didn't pan out, or thinking, we were just that one player away and didn't make the playoffs. For example, let's say Travis Hamnick, or we acquired Tyler Toffoli, Ryan Carpenter, and Kelly Youngkirk, and none of those players panned out. Well, this past season we traded away Elias Lindholm, Nikita Zadorov, Chris Tanev, Noah Hanifin, and then for next season, picks that we're going to get, we traded away Jacob Markstrom and Andrew Mangiapane, and then that first round pick that we got from the Vegas Golden Knights will be in 2026 from the Noah Hanifin trade. So next year, the Calgary Flames, barring any other moves between now and next draft, they're going to have at least 2 draft picks. Still got to figure out what's going to happen, which pick the Montreal Canadiens are eventually going to get. But Calgary might have their own, or the pick that they got from the Florida Panthers in the Matthew Tkachuk, Johnny Huberdeau, Kenzie Weegar trade. And then we got a second round pick, which I already talked about that trade in a separate video, for Andrew Mangiapane. And then in 2026, Calgary will have 2 first round picks, their own and the extra pick that we got from the Vegas Golden Knights. So based on the fact that this team is rebuilding, which is needed, it's not hard to say, Murray, it's a rebuild. The fans, I think it's a perfect time. Want to see some youth in the lineup, and bring in players who want to be here. If you got players that are excited for each other, that know each other, that got drafted. But I'm going to say, based on what I've been hearing from hockey buffs and other hockey YouTubers, they said the Calgary Flames did very well in this draft. And what I'm hearing, players like Quinn Hughes and Erik Karlsson as comparables for Zane Parekh. Well, that should get me excited, because they're both dynamic offensive defensemen that won Norris trophies, and I'm going to say this team needs a mix of offensive defensemen. We've got Zane Parekh, Hunter Ristevich, and then we've got Jeremy Poirier and Ethan Morin in the system. So hopefully we can still see some potential in the future. Right now you got Kenzie Weegar and Rasmus Anderson, top defensemen who do have some offensive side, but there is some decisions that could be made in the next few years, depending on where this team's going, where they're at. But it is time to do a little rebuild, and hopefully we can close out the dome with a bang and then move into the new building as contenders. But time will tell to see if any of these players pan out and actually be good for the Calgary Flames. So I'll close it out. Thanks for watching if you're up to this point. But if you want to follow along with this Calgary sports fans journey, just make sure you hit like and subscribe. I have my other social media links down in the description below. But yeah, it was a longer draft recap video this time, because we had more players to draft and look at, and didn't trade away as many picks. Because this time we were trading away assets to get draft picks, and don't need to spend to the cap right now, because we are rebuilding. I think it's time to throw the retooling word out of the window. We are rebuilding. And I'm fine with that right now, as long as there's a plan and we see progress to get out of that mushy middle that we've been stuck at for a couple decades now. So I say, go Flames, go. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.